Today I'm going to be showing you how to do some dot painting using your watercolors. Now I'm going to be using a circle, so I have kind of an old yogurt cup, a little cup here, to make a circle with so that I can draw them, or you can just freehand a circle if you just want to draw it without getting something to trace. Now, to draw this circle, I like to use colored pencils, especially the lighter kind, because then you can't really see them in the final piece. So I usually use a yellow or like a light peach kind of color. And then you can line it up where it's centered on your paper here. And then just kind of trace around to get yourself started with a circle shape. Now, once that's done, you don't really need the cup anymore. It was just to get that one circle started. So along with your watercolor paints, you're also going to want a cup with just a teeny tiny bit of water. I mean, just enough to get your very little bit of your fingertip wet. And then some Q-tips is actually how we're gonna do this. Now, I also have a brush because I like to get these started with a little bit of water before I start using them. Otherwise, I have to kind of re-wet the Q-tip a few times. So I just take the brush, put it in the water, and then kind of squeeze a drop out in each one just to get those paints started. Maybe even a couple of drops. That'll help when you're actually using the Q-tips. So, squeeze a little water out in your paints, and then once they're ready to go, your very first part that you do is the inside of the circle. So you'll need kind of a Q-tip for each color if you want to kind of line them up so that you know where they're at. If you don't want to use a lot of Q-tips, you could use both ends, but then it tends to get on your hands a little bit more. So I'm just lining these up so I know which one goes with which color. I'm going to be using all my colors here probably at some point or another, kind of like the rainbow effect that it creates. I generally don't like to use brown and black as much when I do this kind of stuff, so I've got kind of a rainbow set here. Alright, so when you get started, you're going to pick a color to start with, and you're going to put a row of dots right along the inside edge of that line. You could even do them right on the line if you want. Now, a couple of things you need to make sure you're doing is you're keeping the dots really close together. You shouldn't be able to fit your finger between them. We really want to keep them so they're almost touching, but the other thing is we don't want them to touch. If they all start to touch, then they kind of bleed into each other. So you do want to make sure there is a little bit of space between them. All right, so I'm going to start with red. I need to get the Q-tip wet first, okay? I don't want to sit there and soak it all up though. Just kind of touch it in there and make sure the edge is wet. And then I'm going to kind of load it up. You can see the red paint's loading up into it. And then I'm going to give it a test and see if I've got enough. If I have enough, I'm going to keep going. And I'm just going to see how far I can go before I need more paint. The nice thing about using watercolors to do this is you can get a lot more dots than if you were using like a tempera paint or something like that. Alright, so then I'm going to reload. I don't need to press real hard to do this. If my paints are already wet, then it takes in the paint pretty quickly. And I'm just keeping my dots really nice and close together. And then when it looks like it starts to kind of fade out a little bit, I grab more paint. And then when I get back towards this edge, I think I've got room for one right there, and that's where I stop. Then I'm going to choose another color to do another circle inside. So I'm going to get this one wet now because I haven't used it yet, and then I'm going to grab orange. So I'm kind of going to go in rainbow order here. It's something I like to do. You don't have to go in rainbow order. It's just something that I prefer. So now, after I do the orange row of dots, I'll be switching up to the yellow. So you can get quite a few dots before you need more. Alright, so there we go. So then I'm going to switch it up and get my yellow one wet and then add in a row of yellow dots. So I'm working my way towards the middle of the circle as I do this. I feel like I need a little more water on there. There we go. And then once I finish the inside of the circle, I'm going to come up with a design for outside the circle. So, in this one over here, you can actually see I did sort of like a cross design where I did lines going out from all four sides. But you don't have to do it that way. You don't even have to use straight lines. You could do wavy lines or zigzag lines. That's going to be up to you. All right, so there's my green. I'm gonna move on to my turquoise here, get my Q-tip wet. And then I think I've got room for one dot in the middle. So I'll use kind of my darker blue here. We'll call that our indigo. And put that one dot in the middle. Okay, so when it comes to being outside, if you want to go back and use your yellow pencil to draw a couple of guidelines to help you get started, you definitely can do that. You just want to make sure that you're using a lighter color so you're not seeing them when you're finished. So in this one, maybe I decide to do a wavy line. So and I'm just going to do it straight across. So I think I'm going to do my guide kind of down below, like that, and then above, like that. And that'll kind of help me. And then I'm going to do a color I haven't used yet. So I'll start with purple. So then I'm going to kind of go, I think, just to the inside of that line that I made. So you can add those lines to help kind of guide you. You could just even do one line, and that would be fine. Spacing can be a little tricky when you're working outside of the circle shape. So sometimes you aren't able to do a whole line. So for example, where this purple is, if I go above that, let's see, I use my magenta here. That's probably the last color that I can fit before I run into the circle. So then my other ones are going to be broken up by the circle. Kind of like, so then up here, I'm going to go to the circle, stop, and then come out the other side. Or the other option is to kind of go and hit the circle and then go up around the circle and back out. So if I wanted to do it that way, then I would actually kind of mimic, do the same thing above that I did below, where I am doing the purple and the magenta first. So you kind of play with how you want to do it on the outside, but just try to keep your dots really close together. And if you just want to do straight lines across, that's totally fine. If you want to do it like rays of sunlight coming, oops, those ones are a little bit too close together, but you can do it like coming out from the circle all the way around. There's lots of options there. All right, so then I'm going to do that magenta row underneath, and then I'll show you how to kind of do the spaces around the circle if you want to make them change direction. My spacing's a little bit off here, but that's okay. All right, so then I'll go, I'm gonna go actually back to purple because I'm gonna kind of keep it in rainbow order. So then on this part here, because it runs into the circle, I either have a choice. I hop over the circle and go to the other side, or I go around the circle this way and then kind of finish back over to the same side. So you can do it either way, okay? And that's actually kind of how I did it here. So it kind of changes and goes towards the sides. But yeah, so then you could do that, and then you would kind of keep going with that. So then I would do the same thing with the blue. It just kind of follows that path this way now. You can get really interesting designs. In this one, I actually did more than one circle and then kind of curved the lines between. So there's lots of different opportunities. You can do more circles outside your circle, so you could keep going around the circle on the outside too. So there's lots and lots of different options for doing this. All right, I hope you have fun. I'll see you later.